Here we go, fam. It's the Q&A.
Hey everyone, welcome to WoWcast. Today we're going to have the Q&A about the War Within. Please introduce yourselves.
So
we
met this woman
we love the reception,
at the Mixer. We met her a couple of times.
Us pulling back the curtain and setting expectations.
And it's not important. What I'm about to say now isn't important, but I feel like I have to say it.
Hey everyone, welcome to WoW.
Bethany Stout is so fucking hot. I swear to God. In real, like, I think she looks hot on video, obviously, but in real life, she's like stunningly attractive. It's wild. I know a thing or two about stunning attractive women, right? Like, if you've seen my wife. But it's just like, yeah. I feel it's probably okay to point that out.
WoWcast, today we're going to have the Q&A about the War Within. Please introduce yourselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Ian Hasekostas, Game Director on WoW.
Hello, my name is Morgan Day. I'm one of the Associate Game Directors on World of Warcraft.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And let's go straight to the questions. Our first question
this is good. Just so you know, I'm not going to be watching the Season of Discovery part of this Q&A. Not because I don't give a fuck. No, actually, because I don't give a fuck. Sorry. I'm really excited for Season of Discovery, but I do not need to know anything about it. I do not need to know. I'm only interested in the retail stuff here, okay?
From Fuser from the Warcraft Community Council, and they ask, in the near future, will a 2024 roadmap be revealed?
I can say that is something we're working on in the near future.
We've got 36 minutes of retail stuff before it goes into Classic, don't worry.
Sure. Hopefully we can roll it out in the next couple of months. We love the reception, to us pulling back the curtain and setting expectations for what 2023 was going to look like. We're just, buttoning up some final details, but want to have a similar picture that we can lay out for 2024. I can say that even after Guardians of the Dream, that's just rolled out this week, players can expect 3 more updates to Dragonflight before War Within pre-patch. So we'll have all the details when the roadmap lands.
Our next question is from
3 more updates. So 10.2.5, 10.2.7, and the Fated season, right? Still, that's 3 updates between now and pre-patch in the fall. So that's 1 update per 3 months. Decent cadence? Maybe. Oh, he said before pre-patch. Yeah, no, I didn't count. Like, Fated is not pre-patch. We know there's going to be a Fated season. We know there's a Fated season. So, like, if there are 3 updates between now and the pre-patch, that's going to be, like I said, 10.2.5, 10.2.7, and the Fated season, or something like that. It's not loads, is it, for basically a year? But hey, man, we'll wait and see. I'm down to wait and see. Better than Shadowlands isn't a high bar. No, and should not be counted as a bar.
From AJPST on the WoW subreddit. They ask, what do you guys think about the 3-day early access?
I'm really looking forward to this answer, by the way, because obviously it's bullshit. What can you say? Like, what can you possibly say? What can Ian say? What Ian wants to say, if Ian is allowed to be honest, which obviously he's not, Ian would be like, no, obviously that's bullshit. It's not our choice. Sorry.
Yeah, so obviously we've seen a lot of discussion about the early access aspect of the Epic Edition in the last few days. So really where this came from, where this started, was us looking across the board to add value to the expansion bundles at all levels. So starting at the base edition of War Within, compared to Dragonflight, like that includes a boost now, which again was only available in Heroic and up in Dragonflight. It includes Dragonflight itself, if you didn't, own that already. So when we increase the value of the base level, we need to also make sure that the increased tiers have their own compelling offerings. And as we considered options, cosmetics, features, access, things like that, one of the things, of course, we paid attention to across the industry is the option of early access as well as beta access. We understand as a live game, as an MMO, as a competitive and cooperative game, there are some unique dimensions to any kind of early access offering here. And there's a little bit of fine print that people have seen on the website, but I want to just elaborate on what that means a bit more. We're really trying to do everything we can to ensure that this is really just a head start on leveling up. You can jump in and work on getting to 80, exploring the world, seeing the story, But Mythic Zero dungeons, weekly quests, things like weekly specialization cooldowns, the high-end treasure tables, if there are rares that drop limited epics, all those things that will feel like any kind of long-term competitive advantage are not going to be available during these first few days. For folks who are used to jumping in and just like going hard at an expansion launch, you may be familiar with the fact that those things have already traditionally been locked until the first weekly reset, until Tuesday morning in North America, Wednesday morning in Europe.
I completely agree with you, Davixer. I don't like the we need to increase the value of Epic Edition argument, mostly because it's like, if you have to arbitrarily make up bullshit to include in your Epic Edition, maybe you didn't fucking need an Epic Edition. Like, if you are like, yo, we're gonna have an Epic Edition. Oh, we need to think of like anything. So just think of something we can put in there so it's value. It's like, you didn't fucking need it then, did you? You know? Like, it's just an arbitrary way of making bullshit money. That's what it is. It's utter bullshit. What I don't like, and you know, Ian, it's like we say, what is Ian supposed to say here? It wasn't his decision. It would have come from higher up. Like, no one on the WoW team has any fucking choice about this. He can't come out and say that because he's not doing his job. And at the end of the day, he's got a choice here. He's like, is this my line in the sand? Is this worth giving up my job for? And it's like, is it worth me stopping playing WoW for? No. Why should I expect Ian Hazzikostas to give up his job over this, right? So I agree. It's bullshit. It's terrible. Do I blame Ian Hazzikostas for this answer? No. What other choice has he got? You know? And I don't like it when people say he's like lawyery. He's giving the only answer he can here, but it's still better than the answer most other people would be able to give. Not because it's lawyery, not because it's like corporate, but because it's just thoughtful. Like the reason I think a lot of people call Ian lawyery is because he's got a habit of taking every question that is given him very seriously and answering it very thoughtfully and very thoroughly, which means he says a lot of words because he's trying to take every question seriously. And people say that's lawyery. I actually take it the opposite. I think he's actually just giving questions the respect they deserve. And, you know, like, he's already giving more thought to this than the fucking question deserves, right? It's bullshit because the entire thing is bullshit. But I still like his approach. He's doing the best he fucking can with this, honestly.
Europe, Thursday morning in Asia.
And that does actually translate into questions that are good questions and do have like worthwhile answers and aren't bullshit as well.
Certainly by the time season 1 starts, if you have 2 players with similar playstyles side by side and one of them had early access and the other didn't, you really can't tell which is which in terms of any competitive aspect of the game that matters.
Devil's advocate, so where's the fucking value then, Ian? You just spent 5 minutes telling me how it's not going to affect anything. So where's the value that you're finding there, Ian? No, the value answer is bullshit.
So it's looking to offer increased value where we can, but also roll it out.
It's FOMO. That's exactly what it is. Like we say in the weekly reset, the reason this is predatory and bullshit is because, you know, it's sold as play the game early. But what it is in reality is, it's not pay $90, play the game early. It's pay $90 so you don't have to play the game late. That's what it actually is. You know? It's not play the game early. It's don't play the game late. And it's bullshit. It's utter fucking bullshit. You know? Like, $90 buyers aren't playing the game early. $50 buyers are playing the game late. You know? And that's why it's bullshit. It's utter bullshit. It's the worst kind of FOMO, like, enforced scarcity bullshit. Boo, boo. And I love all the other shit in the Epic Edition. I fucking love it. I bought it. And people are like, well, aren't you a hypocrite then for buying the Epic Edition? You know, if you care so much. It's like, yeah, but I like the other stuff. I want the other stuff in the Epic Edition. I just wish it didn't have the 3-day early access stuff. You know? And it's going to ruin patch day for everyone. Yeah, totally. Totally. And also, as a content creator, I literally have no choice but to buy the Epic Edition. My job literally depends on it. There's that too. But I try and talk about these things just as a player. And like, even just as a player, I'd rather, like, everyone would rather it didn't fucking exist, right? You know?
Carefully to make sure that it's fair.
Our next question is from Zayaxlein from Germany, and they ask, if expansions are supposed to be released faster in the future, will that have an impact on the amount of content per expansion? And if not, how do you ensure that the quality and quantity remain the same?
That's
Big
a great
question.
Something we've also heard a lot of discussion around. Just want to be clear, obviously we're focused right now on the War Within, and that's what we're talking about. But as Chris Metzen laid out, we have Midnight and the Last Titan on the horizon. Those are WoW expansions. And we're not trying to, do some game shrinkflation here. WoW expansions are staying WoW expansions, right? When you see War Within, that's 4 zones, 8 dungeons, new levels, a raid, all of that stuff. Again, not saying much about Midnight, but I can say it's going to have 4 zones, dungeons, a raid, etc. And so, really, that's what we're holding to. Now, we've made no secret of the fact that we want to reduce lulls and gaps in our content delivery.
I will never trust these recorded Q&As. I get what you're saying, but I have to ask why. Like, what do you want from a Q&A, really? Like, you want good questions and you want good answers. And believe it or not, I don't think the way to get good answers when it comes to game devs talking about their game is to try and catch them by surprise. Like, I think a situation where you've had time to pick good questions that have good answers as well, because it's like the best question in the world isn't a good question if it's got a rubbish answer. Like, you can ask a really good question, but if it's got a boring answer, it's a rubbish question, really. Like, it's good to see questions in advance because, like, sometimes a boring sounding question can actually have a really fucking good and hype answer. And like when they're choosing questions for the Q&A, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for questions that have good answers. And, I think the questions and the quality of answer that you're going to get with the Q&A organized like this, that you're going to get better questions, you're going to get better answers. You're going to get more questions because you don't have to spend 5 minutes with everyone going, want to shout out to Penis Buddies on Argentine EU, what up? Like, you don't have to go through all that shit with every single question. And, the devs answering the questions are not having to perform as much. They don't have to make jokes. They can just answer the fucking questions. Obviously, not having the Q&A at BlizzCon sucked because the Q&A at BlizzCon is like iconic. It's brilliant. It's just a lot of fun. It's part of the experience. I'd still rather have a Q&A at BlizzCon, but on the plus side, I think you genuinely get better questions and better answers in a situation like this. Cliff Terios, thank you very much. Thank you. As long as the questions aren't clearly plants like the Diablo Q&A. Was there a Diablo Q&A this year? I didn't see it. Well, look, guys, I've got to tell you, when I do an interview with WoW devs, one thing I always say to them, if I remember before I start, is, is there a question that you want me to ask you? Because they know what they are keeping back. They know what the hype, instead of me guessing what the hype shit is and trying to work out and press the right fucking button to get them to say the cool thing, if there's a cool thing to say, tell me what the fuck I should ask to get the cool thing, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's pointless me just stabbing in the dark, like trying to get to the cool thing. I'm like, if there's a cool thing that you want to talk about, fucking tell me now and I'll ask about it. I want you to say the cool thing. Right? And like, I also think that I don't know about Diablo and I don't really care about Diablo, but my personal experience with the Q&A, like, is it's always been completely legit. Even in the year when the Hong Kong scandal was happening and there was a genuine fear that people would go off piste and ask questions they weren't supposed to ask, something that didn't happen but kind of happened. We were hosting that Q&A and I was like, look, well, for a start, when they asked us to do it, we were like unsure and we were like, we need guarantees that this Q&A is going to be legit. because we had the same fears as you, right? And they were like, no, Law was talking to us and he was like, no, we're going to do it exactly the same as we've always done it. It's a legit Q&A. And I was like, okay, cool. So we did it. And then, while we were there in rehearsal, I was like, what do you want me to do if someone does start asking about Hong Kong? Like, what's the play? Like, at this point, I'm being paid by you. I'm doing a hosting job. What do you want me to do if someone does that? And Randy, love him. He said, look, if someone asks that question, you have to put it to them. You have to put it to the panel. Like, they've queued up, they've changed their question, fine, but it's a Q&A, my dude. Like, if someone asks about Hong Kong, you have to let them answer. I bet they've got answers, they know it might happen. And so, like, I was actually really impressed by that. There was no kind of keep that shit under wraps. There was no, like, I think you mentioned something about how they always have pre-approved questions. Yeah, exactly, man. They don't go to the fucking bucket that people put their questions in and take them out at random. You get shit questions. You probably get like 6 of the same question. Of course they go through the questions and choose the best ones. Of course they do. Like, it would be brain dead not to. You'd end up with like 6 of the same fucking question. Like, every person that got to the front of the queue would be like, oh, I was going to ask that. So, I guess I'll just ask, what's your favorite transmog? It'd be shit. Are you still in the doghouse after BlizzCon? I don't even know anymore. I guess by the fact we got flown to fucking BlizzCon, no. Yeah, so like you have to, like, not choosing the questions in advance is completely unfair. You couldn't do that unless you had like a whole day for a Q&A, not like an hour. Like, the idea that somehow choosing the questions beforehand is bad in any way, just in principle, is so dumb.
Over the years, a lot of the investment we've made in growing the World of Warcraft development team in recent years has been building towards realizing this exact goal, being able to deliver a steady patch cadence, content update cadence like we've seen throughout Dragonflight, while still being on track for a big, ambitious expansion offering on schedule. And when you opt into War Within, you're not just signing up for what's there at launch, you're signing up for a continuation of that frequent Dragonflight style update schedule. Our main goal is to ensure that we're telling the story without meaningful pauses or lulls, but also at the same time not rushing through it and giving each, whether it's a narrative beat or a raid tier or whatever, the time that it needs to breathe and for players to really enjoy it at their own pace with the next thing on the horizon.
Yeah, and like Ian mentioned, there's 3 more updates coming in Dragonflight. One of those things will be a season 4, like we saw with Shadowlands, and that's an opportunity for us to do some fun experimental things as well as to kind of revisit some of what we saw.
So I don't know about you guys, but my reaction to the idea of a fated season in Dragonflight is, well, it's better than nothing. Which I don't think is the best reaction to have. I don't think that's what we should be going for, right? Fated was great for Shadowlands because it's more than Shadowlands deserved. I feel like a Fated season is less than Dragonflight deserves. I feel like that's the best way I can put it. And my reaction to learning that I've got a Fated season to look forward to is like, well, it's better than nothing. And I don't think that's the kind of hype we should be aiming for. But whatever, man.
In season 4 of Shadowlands, but there's also some like kind of awesome surprises coming in there that the team has really been looking at ways to like.
Nighthold. We're going to Nighthold, everyone. Here's something I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if there's another dungeon before the time this expansion is out. That's not a prediction. But I just wouldn't be surprised if we get a sneaky little dungeon or like mini dungeon or like 2 boss raid or something. Why do you think Nighthold? Because if you've been playing the tier storyline in Dragonflight, that last chapter of the tier storyline where you get the Silver Hand back together, they say, oh, the disc is in Nighthold. We should go and get it. So I'm really like, I don't expect anyone else to be able to put 2 and 2 together there. It's a really difficult plot beat, really fucking like under the hood. Only like you have to be a fucking genius like me to notice this kind of shit. And this is why I'm the dude in the chair, right? Okay, this is why I'm the guy with the microphone, is because I'm just on a different level to your average person, right? So I picked up on the very, very subtle reference where they say, "Oh shit, the disc is in Suramar, let's go get it." I can't expect mere mortals like you to pick up on that kind of shit, right? That's why, I get the big bucks. I think we're going to Avalorum for Tyr's disc. Well, I always thought that Avalorum was going to be 0.3 if we had it. And here's the thing, right? I never ever thought Avalorum was going to be the Beyond the Storms like expansion zone. And, I was right, but for completely the wrong reasons in the end. But the reason I never thought that Avalorum... we all thought it was Beyond the Storms. Well, me and Bell and other people did. And we've since learned that people were putting shit in the game specifically to suggest that once that became a theory, which is really funny. I love it. But I never thought it was Avalorum that was Beyond the Storms, because the way the book puts it, that we got the Avalorum thing from, was it's like... they keep sending people to Avalorum, and they keep dying and getting killed by the people who are on Avalorum, and the wreckage keeps coming back to the shore, which wouldn't happen if it was Beyond the Storms. The whole point of Beyond the Storms is you can't get there. So I always thought Avalorum was in our neck of the woods, our side of the storms, and I still think that because of the way the book says that. Anyway,
provide really.
Oh yeah, so the big one is the fish. I've heard, not directly from the dev involved, but I've heard that the South Seas fish mount thing was obviously we know that the model was designed for the Emerald Dream, but they called it the South Seas thing specifically because people were having these theories and stuff to kind of troll a little bit, which I think is really funny. Anyway.
Unique experiences to the players and really make sure that Dragonflight is fresh and exciting all the way through as we move into the War Within.
Our next question from many players around the world, and including myself. Will druids have dynamic flight in all of their flight forms, or some, or will there be a new flight form specifically for dynamic flying for druids?
Can confirm that druids will have dynamic flight in their flight forms.
That's good.
That's how flying is going to work going forward.
Our next question is Watermist from the Warcraft Community Council. Why is static flying not available until level 80 while dynamic flying is immediately available off the bat? May we hear
because fuck you, that's why. Just fucking do the leveling. Look, I know that loads of people hate dynamic flying. I do. Fine. And if you're one of those people, and there will be many people in this chat who hate dynamic flying, I think that's fine. But fuck you. Sorry. No. It's fine. Accessibility. Exactly. I get it. I think I know exactly what they're going to say in answer to this, but yeah, I get it. I do get it. I'm trolling. I'm lolling. I'm sorry. I'm playing, but I'm on your side. At this stage, just have static flying, swim flying, I like to call it. Just have that open all the time. I was in favor of keeping it out of Dragonflight until now, but whatever, man. Who cares?
your reasoning for this, please?
Yeah, I can take that one. We actually discussed this quite a bit as we were moving into Dragonflight, but something about dragon riding, it just makes the questing experience a lot more engaging and exciting,
right.
And it
Unless
really
you
changes
just
the way
hate
you
it, you
engage
can't
with
do
the
it, and it's not
world.
engaging at all.
And also, until you've really mastered it, there's a bit more variance to it, where with static flight, you can kind of pop up, idle, look around, exactly pinpoint the quest mob, boop, land right on top of it, versus there's a lot more active gameplay with dragon riding, aka dynamic flight. I have to train my brain now.
Yeah, me too.
So I can. Okay, look. I've just said, for the love of God, just enable it. Who cares? But there's a decent argument that parts of Thaldraszus are literally designed to be much, much harder to get to if you haven't leveled up your dragon riding. And that's on purpose, right? So what it's doing there is it's doing a kind of improving your character on an RPG level by getting glyphs and stuff to literally open up new areas of the game, which is a legitimate game design idea. It's not on the same level as, but it's the same idea as, say, something like Castlevania or Hollow Knight, where, you know, you literally can't get past this thing until you've gone and picked up the double jump, right? And that is like their version of leveling, is that, you know, parts of the map are only accessible when you've unlocked certain things that your character can do. And on a lower level, dragon riding is that. And so it makes sense as a progression dynamic. Like, there are literally parts of this map that you're going to need to be shit hot at dragon riding and be leveled up in dragon riding to even reach. And I do understand that. I think it's a good argument. I get it. I still think you should just enable static flying for everyone if they want it, you know, but I do see that argument, and I do appreciate that argument.
Dragonflight. So yeah, we just feel like, you know, that's a much more interesting way to engage with the world, especially during level up as you're still exploring. And then
Fluffy Doom, you completed your trading, your trader's log.
Not too long after reaching max level. There's probably some really basic things that you might be used to, like explore the world, do some quests.
Have you tried flying over the Dragon Isles in static flying? No, why the fuck would I do that? Like, I'm sure someone will, but I have literally no desire to do that. I don't think I will ever toggle that shit on. Sorry. Never. It's dragon riding all the way for me. That shit's legit. It's the single biggest improvement in WoW maybe ever. Honestly. Like legitimately, it changes the whole dynamic of your minute-to-minute gameplay. It at a stroke, it changes traveling from place to place. Instead of being a hurdle to be overcome, like a time delay, you know, to level through and find ways around, the travel between action is now part of the gameplay. And that is revolutionary for WoW. It changes so much of what your minute-to-minute gameplay is, you know? It's really, really important. And that was clear instantly as soon as we got to... I wasn't hyped for dragon riding at all. The second I tried it on the fucking alpha, I was like, oh shit, this is like literally the best thing. Do you think they'll do dynamic riding ground? Yeah, I think they might as well. I think there's a lot to be said for gamifying travel. Because that's what dragon riding does. It gamifies travel. Like it does what Spider-Man 2 does, or the last Spider-Man game does as well, which is by making travel fun, by making the traversal a part of the gameplay. You know, it's an important part of the fun loop. There was nothing like travel before dragon riding was not part of the fun loop. It was in between the fun loops. You do a fun loop, you kill some baddies, then you travel somewhere, and then there's another bit of gameplay, and then you travel somewhere else, and the travel was in between the gameplay. What Spider-Man did with its traversal made it super fun with web swinging and stuff. It became the gameplay. Like sometimes I log into Dragonflight and I just fly around because it's fun.
We won't have renown on it. We learned that lesson. And then you'll be able to unlock it very early on in the War Within as well.
Our next question is from Dirty Paws from the Warcraft Community Council. Regarding professions, is the new system we got in Dragonflight staying? Are there any changes coming to what we saw in Dragonflight?
Good question.
Yeah, totally. So in the War Within, you know, we will have new kind of specialization points where you can kind of customize your different professions as you are continuing to skill up in the War Within. Something else we're looking at is inspiration, the stat. You know, we added a bunch of cool new stats for crafting in Dragonflight. And inspiration is one that we've heard a lot of feedback on and kind of keeping an eye on, since, you know, ultimately sometimes you have to kind of crit your crafting to make it the most valuable one possible. And if you have to crit, then the crit isn't a crit anymore, it's success. So we're looking at that one. And then lastly, you know, we've seen a lot of great feedback around crafting orders and how people are enjoying that. But
sorry, Frog's Planet. Yeah, that is new in 10.2, so that has only been the case for the last couple of days. Yeah, you're right, but that is a 10.2 feature. Yeah, you weren't able to do that before 10.2.
But if you're not someone who's like at the bleeding edge of, you know, the crafting system, it can be hard to find crafting orders that you can fill. So we're looking at ways to kind of increase availability of crafting orders. And one of the ideas that we're currently experimenting with, and, you know, not sure that this is something that we'll be able to do at the launch of War Within, but we think it's a really fun idea to explore, is the idea of like NPC crafting orders, where maybe when you go to the crafting order UI, there'll be like someone, the Valdrakken Accord wants you to make some stuff for them because, they're short on swords or something. They broke them all. Something like that could be really fun, so that it increases
and I can't even tell you why.
the audience that can engage with the crafting orders. So those are kind of the areas that we're looking at for War Within.
It's hard, isn't it? Because the only way, and I say this so much, so I don't want to go on about it now, but like the only way they can actually make professions what they want them to be is to have player housing. Like, it's so funny. We're thinking of all these things to make crafting more like we want it to be, but the actual thing that will make it what people want it to be is player housing. Like, to have an inexhaustible supply of stuff that exists, that isn't connected to player power, that is evergreen, can be an evergreen content that you acquire, like the materials and the recipes, where it doesn't matter if only one person on the server can make this thing. Like, that's actually a good thing when it comes to non-player power options. And that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants to be in a situation where like there is only one person that can make this thing. And that's okay, because it's not connected to your player power. When crafting is connected to player power so intrinsically like it is now, to some extent, everyone needs to be able to do it, which is incredibly limiting. People want to be like, I want to be the one guy on my server that can make this thing. That's what people want. And you can only do that with player housing and, filling your player house with shit. It's funny. So we can keep trying to make it work, but it will never actually work in the way people want it to until player housing.
How will the Warbands transmog unlocking work with class-locked items such as tier set tokens?
Yeah, we're still kind of working through the details there, but in terms of the tier set tokens, we imagine that would kind of
about the
remain
Warband
to be
housing.
soulbound. Certainly that's an area where we're looking to get feedback on. Like, I know there are people who have multiple of one character. So that's definitely, one class. So that's definitely something that we'll be listening to feedback on. But right now the plans are those will stay soulbound, but that doesn't mean if based on feedback we couldn't find some alternative solutions there.
Yeah, I think it's going to vary across legacy content. Set pieces were obtained in some different ways.
Right.
I think if specifically as personal loot or otherwise something is obtained directly as the warrior set, then you'll have to earn that on a warrior. There won't be a way to, when playing your rogue, collect a warrior appearance if it's dropping with class-specific logic. In others, with regard to generalized item drops, though, the goal is just for armor type not to matter.
Okay.
Once you have the item in your possession, if you don't know the appearance will be added to your warband.
Class sets are a fun one though, because it's changed how those have actually been acquired so many times over the years that the team's really gonna have to dig in and look at each individual one and hopefully come up with solutions, but yeah.
I trust
Holy
them.
shit.
I believe.
Ian Hazakos just carrying on where he left off at the fucking deep dive, just dropping them dubs. Holy fuck. He came all in. He was like, yo, Stout, is that your dub bag? You're going to need a bigger fucking dub bag. How wide can you get that dub bag? Nah, you're not going to need a bigger dub bag than that. Sorry. So what I took from that answer was that class sets are more complicated. No definitive answer on class sets, really. Because they're not going to drop for, when the thing is, even if you made it like, I don't know, what his words were, they drop differently, right? So, and they drop differently depending on the legacy content you do. So I can go to Molten Core and I can get, on any character, all that fucking tier drops for me. I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Can we drop out of warbands? Can we opt out of warbands? Yeah, this is something I suggest. I think you should be able to opt out of warbands. Would anyone? Basically, no. But should you be able to? Yes. Yeah, you should be able to start from scratch. You should be able to start a character who isn't like, if you want to start a character that has no rep because you want to take pleasure in doing that, you should be able to do that. What would opting out even mean? So at the moment, all of your characters are automatically in your warband, which means they automatically will share reputation and automatically share a lot of these things. So if you wanted to start, say, an Iron Man character or something, and like just play the game in a challenging way, set yourself a challenge. If you wanted to do an Iron Man or something like that, you have no choice but to start with all of these things, with, you know, like all of this like account-wide stuff already in place. No, I just don't see where the harm is in letting people opt out of it if they want to. I thought you'd just not add the characters to the warband then. No. Warband is automatic. Your warband is just a nice way of saying account-wide everything. You know? It'll be okay to opt out if we can opt in later. Agreed. In the same way that you can pause your XP gain, but you can always turn it back on again. I just don't see the harm in I've said this since the beginning. I think people should be able to opt out of warband, yeah. The warband is for people, but whatever they get is shared. No. That's sorry, guys. People are being confused. Your warband is every character you have on every server. Like, your warband is every character you have. It's not just the 4 in the photo. Those are just the characters that make up like that literally the character select screen. That's just a cool little thing. You know, like your warband is literally every character you create across all regions and accounts if they're on the same region. All servers and accounts if they are on the same server. Am I wrong? Obviously, it's not like... Yeah, exactly. Why do they say warbands plural? Can you have multiple? I don't know. On the same BattleNet, but obviously it won't apply to EU and NA regions because regions are completely separate. So at the moment, it's only going to apply to every character on your region. So I have an NA account and multiple EU accounts on my BattleNet, but my warband will apply to my EU warband will apply to all my EU accounts, but not to my NA account. Fact. They do not have the technology to make that happen. I wish they did. So it's going to be it's BattleNet wide really. So when I get a mount on my EU stuff, it'll be like boom, 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 everyone on my EU, but it won't be my NA because that just doesn't work. They can't do that. I've been told they'll never be able to do that. I don't know how true that is. Yeah, current BOA rules, right? Mounts should be shared across regions. Changed my mind. I think I think everyone thinks that, but I just don't think they can. It's too expensive or whatever. I don't know. I've been told they can never do it. Who knows?
Our next question is from Maury from Discord.
Anyway, that's the answer,
Can
right?
we opt out of warbands?
Not currently. That is not the plan. You will have your warband across all of your characters. We have discussed certain elements of warbands that maybe you wouldn't want to have available on like a brand new character, right? Like one of those examples is exploration. We know often exploration is actually really helpful when you're leveling a new character to know, wait, where haven't I been, right? So that's one of those.
It's also, don't forget, exploration is also free XP when you're leveling up. It's not much, but it's not nothing. Like, if all that is already unlocked, you ain't getting the XP for going into new areas and stuff.
Those kind of unique areas where we've looked at and said, like, actually, this is a space where maybe we don't want to do that, just from a pure gameplay perspective. It would
we've all dinged from exploring every now and then.
To have that. So definitely looking at areas like that we can look to make.
Hey, Thundoes, thank you for the gifted sub, mate.
Yeah, I'd definitely be curious to kind of hear a bit more about what's behind this question. Like, if there's someone who's looking to opt out of warbands, what aspect of it would you not want defaulted to being inherently account-wide?
Okay, I'll answer that, Ian. I'll tell you right now. I kind of already said it. There is a joy in starting from scratch. You know, most of the time, 99% of the time, when we start a new character, we don't want to start from scratch and we want all the account-wide stuff. But sometimes you're just like, you know, I want to go into, a grayed out map where I don't have access to any cool stuff like that I would otherwise have. You know, people want to Iron Man that shit. People want to lone wolf that shit. Yeah, like there is a long and healthy tradition in WoW players setting new challenges for themselves. It's where Hardcore Classic came from, was people doing that kind of thing, which, by the way, has made your company billions of dollars. You know, so that like it is an option for 0.1% of people. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an option for 1.1% of people. I would say it's an option for 0.1% of characters created, but I think many more than 0.1% of people would use it at some point in their WoW careers. Because sometimes you're just like, I want to start completely from scratch, and I don't want to have to start a new account unaffiliated with my Battle.net to do it. Where's the harm? Where's the harm in it?
Because most of this to us, based on the feedback we've heard from players, certainly over the years, feels like universally desirable convenience. But if we're overlooking something, we definitely like to hear that feedback.
I'll be sure to forward that over once I get it. Our next question is from Ravage from the Warcraft Community Council. How will account-wide everything work for people who have multiple accounts on one client? Will each account be separated by their licenses, or will all licenses accounts be included in the Warband account? I'm
very fucking interested to hear the answer to this question.
Your Warband, the members of your Warband will span your Battle.net account. So if you have multiple WoW licenses,
that's what I just said, and I was like, oh, Ian's going to fucking
share
prove me wrong right now.
benefits. Now, there are some restrictions and limitations when it comes to that particular case. I think, for starters, when you're looking at the login screen of character select, you will only see the members of your Warband on that WoW account. You can't log into a different WoW account. That's crossing some walls that are pretty hard barriers within our system. Also, if you're actively multi-boxing, there may be some restrictions on interacting with certain aspects of shared Warbound systems, like the Warband Bank, for example. If one character on account A is actively using the Warband Bank, account B may find that that is currently locked. Again, that's simply just for transactional security and other things along those lines. But if you're just looking to play, make progress toward achievements, earn renown, share transmog, all of those things, doesn't matter whether you're on one WoW account or multiple, as long as they're on the same beacon.
Nice.
Yeah, there's definitely some solutions that we've discussed, like for those of you that have been
they're officially
on
chill with
multiple
multi-boxing,
characters, how
Always have
only
been.
one of them can make progress on your pet battles, because that's a kind of account-wide progress. There'll be similar solutions like that we'll see for a couple different systems, where it's like, okay, this one logged in first, you're the one that kind of has tap.
No, certain types of automation with multi-boxing is banned, but multi-boxing itself is not.
Our next question is from Severex from the Guild Unleashed. How will account-wide rep work with the opposing factions, such as Frenzy Heart Tribe versus Oracles and the Aldor versus the Scryers?
So for this one, was trying to be very clear on the What's Next panel. The current plan is that our War Within renown and reputations will be shared across the entire account. When it comes to more of those legacy ones, we're still kind of looking into what it'll take to achieve that. But even in that world, there are certain reputations like that are really tied to the fantasy of an individual character, right? Like, oh, this character made a choice. So it's very likely we would keep those one tied to the characters, but then there's also the element of, well, what were the rewards that I got from those choices? And those are the areas we want to make sure that that's shared across your account. So it's more just the fantasy of that reputation with that character, where what you might have gotten from it, we would still want to be able to share across your whole warband.
Yeah, as Morgan said, I think for sure War Within reps will work this way. We hope and aim to make Dragonflight reps also kind of retroactively Warband level, because those feel current and relevant. For new players leveling up in War Within, Dragonflight's going to be the level up experience. But for the dozens and dozens of other reps, it's something we want to do. The answer, just to be clear, it's not this will never work on the Warband level. It's just there's a lot of kind of data archaeology and making sure that we're converting and fixing up things appropriately that needs to be undertaken. We want to make sure we're not losing any data along the way. That's something we want to do, but it will take time.
All right, our next question is from Varlens from France. How many characters can we fit into a warband, and are we limited to one warband per account?
I believe it is 50 characters per WoW account, but like we said, you can have
60
more.
as of Dragonflight.
Oh, 60 as of Dragonflight.
Used to be 50.
Old info here.
We raised the cap because of those amazing hardcore alcoholics out there who had 50 characters, and then we're like, here is Evoker. Delete one of your characters.
This is how they
Okay,
speak.
let's raise that.
So it's 60 per WoW account, but like we said, you can have multiple accounts in your warband, but only one will share the character select screen. So lots.
That is a lot.
So no limit is what the answer to that question is, yeah. So you have one warband, basically. You can't like differentiate different warbands for different things. You know, like warband is not actually a thing. It's just the new way it works. Does that make sense? I think people are still thinking of like a warband as an entity, whereas it's literally just how your characters work now. Yeah.
That is so much. Nice. Our next question is from the Cat's Meow from the Guild Garbage. Will Mythic Plus Portals be account bound?
Yeah, so as of about 12 hours ago, I was talking to the team and felt like yes, in War Within, or portals can be account bound.
All right, our next
Sweet. Warband's so great. I love it. But having said that, I do love anything that makes warbands feel more like a thing, more like an entity. Like this. Can we customize? This is what I've been saying. Can we customize the background of the warband menu? Here's what I think, and I said this last stream. At the very least, we should be able to customize it. Just change what background it is. But ideal scenario, the actual ideal scenario that would never happen, but like absolute best case scenario, is the background of your camp represents the last place one of your warband characters logged out. So if you log out in Elwyn Forest, that's where this background is, because that's where you set your camp when you logged out. If you logged out in Stormwind, you're in the fucking inn. That's best case scenario right there. I think that's a lot of effort for a lot of zones. I think you're right. That's why I called it the best case scenario that would never happen. But you've got to know what the best case scenario is so that you can try and get as close to it as possible within reason. There's no point pretending that that wouldn't be the best case scenario. Obviously it would. That's why I said this is the best case scenario that would never happen. And somehow I knew that all the comments would be, that'll never happen. So I know, that's what I said.
Next question is from Roland from France. Can we customize the background of the warband menu?
What if someone logs out in the middle of the ocean? Then your background is the Shadowlands, bitch.
So this is a request we've heard from a few folks since rolling out that look at the new character select screen. We're going to have one cool backdrop at launch in War Within. Definitely feedback there is heard loud and clear. We're looking into, I think adding that functionality and customization down the line. It's not going to be something we can do right at launch. But I think, as we've said a couple times, we really see Warbands as a foundation to build upon. And so, yeah, like the idea that as you reach a certain Warband renown level with a certain
Warbands
group, if you
is
could
the
have
foundation
their
for
settlement,
player
if you like their
housing.
vibe, you like their general
100%.
architecture, if you could unlock using their settlement as your background.
I genuinely think there's a fairly solid possibility, a fairly solid chance that the tech that enables warbands to happen was actually developed for player housing, and this is actually something else they can do with it. I'm not saying that's definitely the case, but I genuinely think that there's a possibility that they were like, okay, if we're going to make player housing, we need to make these fundamental changes to the way the game is even built. So they did it, and then they were like, hey, you know what else we can do with this?
And character select screen, that's the kind of thing we'd love to chase in the future, but not War Within launch.
Okay. Our next question is from Alistair from Germany. Since you're also revamping the banks through the Warband feature, are there also plans to revise or expand the general bags bank storage system?
I think you're going to have
Will we
to,
finally
right?
be able to replace the standard bag?
No plans currently to look at a broader kind of revamp there. Ultimately, often when we hear this feedback, we'll look to try to really look at more tactical solutions, right? Like I think Guardians of the Dream is a great example where we heard a lot of feedback around people's bag space, and the item upgrade system was something that we looked at to kind of help resolve some of the problems there. So, in Guardians of the Dream, those will move your crests and stuff will move into your currency tab. Another one that we talked a lot about was, I mentioned you might need some keys to open some chests and delves, and right from the onset, we were like, okay, please don't make me have a ton of keys in my bag for this. So the team has already talked about having, those keys.
If Last Titan will be the last WoW 1 expansion, then no way will they do housing. Yeah, but Last Titan isn't going to be the last WoW 1 expansion, so the only way Last Titan is the last WoW 1 expansion is if the game goes bankrupt and they just stop making WoW. And also, they've said that Last Titan will end before 2030. That's by then, from now until then, will be a quarter of WoW's entire lifetime. Over a quarter of WoW's entire lifetime. You think they're not going to bother putting in player housing for a quarter of WoW's entire lifetime? Even if what you're saying is right and they don't intend to make any WoW after Last Titan, that's 6 years away, which is a quarter of its entire fucking lifetime. And also, far more importantly, they're never going to make a WoW 2. Not while WoW 1 is still going. And they wouldn't stop making WoW 1 for any other reason than it goes bankrupt. In my opinion, I will eat your shit. I'll put strawberries on it and eat your shit if I'm wrong. Happily. I don't mind being wrong. But that's what I think.
keys kind of live in the Delves UI so that you don't have to carry those around your bag. So definitely looking at tactical ways to
But that means you have to eat my shit if I'm right.
fix that. And anytime that people do feel like, there's so much stuff in my bags, that's really great.
Everyone always wants me to eat their shit, but no one ever wants to eat mine.
Feedback for us to say like, okay, but how are we creating this problem for you? And really looking at that from that perspective versus saying, okay, let's just make your bags bigger and bigger, when in reality, it might be problems that we're creating that we should be solving in different ways.
I will also add, though, that I think the way the OG character bank works is something we want to improve. Our focus right now is just on warband storage. But yeah, I agree that it feels archaic to have to buy a whole set of bags and individually put them in your bank slots when we have examples from the guild bank, the warband bank, of just a more streamlined tabbed system, but focuses on warbands right now.
You don't
Give me
like
the tabs, give me the tabs.
I mean, I know tailors love it, but it's maybe not the most elegant thing.
Our next question is from a lot of players all around the world. Is there something more you can do about bag bloat? The warband bank sounds like a step in the right direction, but we're still piling up valuable items faster than our bags are growing.
Pretty much what Morgan just said to that. It's something that we've heard probably more than ever over the course of Dragonflight, when we've really doubled down on more varied world content in particular, which tends to have localized little systems and ecosystems, and you're gathering fragments as part of one event, or you're getting something else tied to a vendor as part of another. That can very quickly become overwhelming. We've been actively surveying, looking at what items are most commonly in players' bags and trying to use that to guide our development philosophy going forward. The answer, as Morgan said on the last question, isn't more bag space. At some point, if you have 120 things already, that is an overwhelming amount of stuff. We should be trying to limit what we're asking you to hold rather than just giving you more and more space until you can't even find anything in your own inventory anymore.
A change that we are making in War Within also that will help to a small degree here is we're actually having, this is so exciting for me, but I'm sure most people are like, what are you talking about? Is there will be subheaders within the currency tab. So we can start to do things like say, hey, here are my War Within currencies, and then say, here's season 1 War Within currencies. And that way you can just say all right, collapse that. I don't want to see all the currency bloat as we've seen in the past.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Because, a lot of the time the team does discuss hey, should this be a currency or should this be an item in the bag, or how do we want to deal with that? And often the question is, well, is it evergreen or is it seasonal? And if it's seasonal, we often say, all right, it should be an item in your bag because we don't want that to be bloating my currency tab for the whole expansion. But in War Within, having the ability to have those kind of subheaders will, I think, help a lot in terms of
you
being able to
beautiful
leverage that
original.
system more.
Thank you. Thank you, mate.
Our next question is from Stud Muffin from the guild Guardians of Fate. Will we see the trading post in the next expansion as well?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's been a fun addition to the WoW ecosystem, right? It's
Great. I'm glad. Good. But I mean, yes, obviously.
a chance to get a cool range of WoW cosmetics into the
Especially now we're selling the tendies. Holy shit, are you kidding me?
A full fun slate of themed drops.
Look, we had to wait a whole 4 months before we started selling tendies on the store. We're not going to scrap the fucking trading post now.
The course of 2024, and yeah, trading post is here to stay.
I'm sure Stud Muffin will be happy to hear that.
Did the sword go live during BlizzCon?
Exactly. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
We. I mean, everyone. I'm sure everyone tuning in to this WoWcast Q&A is ultra informed and already knows this. But one of the fun things we did with the trading post was the surprise drop for completing the monthly objective in November of a couple of sort of Sargeras transmogs. That would have been spoilery if they'd been there on November 1st, but a few days later, makes sense.
I love
Did you just recognize the sword?
What sword?
I tricked you.
Our next question is from Arbiter from Discord. What about server merging? Right now, most restrictions are lifted, cross-server groups and guilds, item and gold transfers, and region-wide auction house. What can we expect in the future?
So our approach so far has really been to tear down those barriers. Many aspects of the auction house still are realm-based. The commodities portion of it is region-wide. But there's still a lot of things that are rooted in server, not least of which is everyone's names and their guild names. But really, for now, our focus is on making it not matter what server you're on when it comes to basically any facet of your gameplay. If we reach a point down the line where we fully accomplished that goal, and it really raises the question of why do these exist at all, that's a bridge we would cross. But really, our focus is on the player experience first and foremost.
Will there be another stat squish? And if so, what does that look like this time? If another stat squish is enacted, will the team be looking into the after effects that occur in regards to legacy content?
So we're not currently planning on a stat squish for War Within. We're going to have some pretty large numbers, but they're comparable to numbers that we saw in Legion, let's say. We are almost certainly going to do a stat squish again at midnight. When we get there. We've gotten better, basically, at doing this over the years.
That makes sense.
It's less of an ad hoc process and something we have more structure around. So I think I'm confident that we'll be able to better address legacy scaling. And as always, when we roll it out, make sure to roll it out from day one of the midnight alpha, so that we can have all the time needed to get any feedback or catch things you might have missed.
I think tanks had about 3 or 4 million HP in Legion. Am I wrong? I seem to recall we definitely were in the 3 millions in Legion for tank health. Oh shit! Yeah, before buffs 10 million in Legion. Okay, I underestimated that. Holy shit! Yeah, it felt like a lot in Legion, but it didn't feel like absurd. But it definitely needed a squish after that. Yeah, and they've built kind of implementing stat squishes into the mechanics of like how they build stuff now. So you'd imagine it's something they can basically do whenever they want, right? It's kind of automated to a certain degree.
To make sure that it's not disruptive when it comes to legacy content.
Our next question is from Raining Metal from Discord. Will the nature of the group finders, such as for looking for raids, dungeons, and time walking, ever be made cross-faction?
So there's aspects there that we want to continue to expand. The pre-made group finder is inherently cross-faction for groups that you can form and walk into instances. It's an opt-in activity by design. And I think our plan is to keep it that way, in the sense of avoiding situations where someone is randomly queuing up for something and then just finding themselves in a group with members of the opposite faction in a way that can sort of violate some fundamental boundaries in the rest of the in-world Azeroth fiction. Our focus is on letting people play with their friends, first and foremost. Now we recognize, though, that there are some activities, time walking probably being the most notable among them, that can only be accessed via queuing. And there, what we would like to do, and we are working on this, is have the ability to say that, yes, if you're a pre-made cross-faction group, you can queue up for any of these queued activities, but that's not quite the same as random matchmaking with people who aren't opting into that cross-faction game.
Our next question is from Rugsy from Discord. Can we expect to see the continuation of expanded character customization in the War Within? Can we expect more than new hair, eye colors coming in the future?
My prediction for the answer to this question? No. More. What did you say you wanted? More customization options? It doesn't sound like the kind of thing we'd do. Is that really going to be? Do people really want that? Well, I mean, never done anything before now. I don't see why we'd start now. No, we've pretty much put customization on the back burner now. Basically, we're done with that shit. You've all got plenty of options, right? That's my prediction for this answer. Let's see how right I am.
Yeah, I think this is another one of those ongoing projects. I think, as we've seen over the course of Dragonflight, some of our updates, additional options for different races as it makes sense. It's something, same with our UI updates and other areas. We want to just keep adding options, keep adding variety, and I think certainly we've learned from Evoker customization, for example, how to offer some more areas of customization that we would love to bring to other player races down the line.
Our next question is from Shalandana from Germany. Why do we travel back in time?
But it doesn't have to be very good, because it's not like we'd ever use it, right?
Night the Last Titan, and what does this mean? Are we talking about specific zones or an actual complete new old version of the world?
Why do we travel back in time?
I think it's a misconception.
Are there people that think that's what's happening? All right, fess up. Stick a 1 in chat if you thought we were traveling back in time to Kel'Thalas. Else TV, blocked for being an idiot. Kublark, blocked for being an idiot. You're all blocked for being it. No, I'm not blocking anyone, don't worry. You're all very clever and wise with a great taste in streamers. Obviously we're not traveling back in time. There was never any suggestion that we were traveling back in time. Is it because Metzen's last expansion was WOD? We all just assumed? Could be a translation issue somewhere, I guess. Yeah, I guess so. Actually, I'd be very interested to know how many people who thought that actually were listening to translations or something. Yeah, good question. We're going back in time to Kel'Thalas. He said that? I did not take that literally. Did he really say we're going back? He didn't say we're going back in time. He just said we're going back, surely. He really said we're going back in time? Well, I just so happen to have the announcement here. Oh, I did? Damn. Really? Wait.
World of Warcraft, midnight.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
You will be returning, ready, to the old world. To the fabled lands of Quel'Thalas.
No, he doesn't say we won't go back in time. No, he never ever said we go back in time. I don't know where the fuck you've got that from. Phew, I thought I was going fucking mad then. Returning to the old world. Yeah, but like, the old world is in... Okay, so in Swansea, we have an old town, all right? But we don't go back in time to get there. It's just old. It's just the old town, right? I'm not like, yo, should we go out to the old town tonight? And like, Evie's like, holy fuck, yeah, okay, let me get the fucking, like, DeLorean out. So it's got to be a translation issue, that one. That's so funny. Wow, okay. That's wild. I had no idea that people thought we were actually going back in time. This is fucking wild to me. I love it. I'm so glad that people thought this. It's incredibly entertaining to me.
The root of this question, this is definitely, we're not traveling in time at all. We have just healed the time-ways as of the Infinite recently.
We are traveling in time. I hate to be that guy, but time is going forward, Ian. We're not in a fucking pocket dimension, are we? We are traveling in time, but we're just not going back in time.
We don't need to venture there anytime soon.
I am that guy, sorry.
When Chris Metzen said returning to the old world, he didn't mean old in the sense of temporal, but actually just returning to these familiar lands that we had visited at times in the past and seeing how they've changed and telling new stories in them. I think one of the things
Ian, my
that
lady.
is really essential for us when it comes to future World of Warcraft storytelling and that we want to make sure we're able to do is keep these iconic spaces vibrant and relevant.
So happy that people thought we were going back in time. I can't believe I missed that. I've missed this whole going back in time discourse. I'm so stupid.
Really best serves the Warcraft franchise. So in Midnight, yes, we're going to be returning to the land.
Time is a man-made concept? No. The word time is man-made, but no, time is a fundamental building block of relativity. Like, gravity isn't a man-made concept just because we discovered it. Thanks for calling me stupid for mishearing someone. Tico, you're not stupid for mishearing someone. You're stupid for thinking I was being serious when I was obviously joking. You are stupid. But the reason you're stupid is not because you misheard someone. The reason you're stupid is because you took it seriously when I was obviously joking, calling you stupid. You have now actually proved yourself stupid, because this time I'm not joking. You actually are stupid. And that's why.
Of the Blood Elves, the lands around Silvermoon, the lands of Quel'Thalas, and we will see how they have changed in the time since the Draenei arrived and the Blood Elves entered into World of Warcraft in 2007. But also we're going to expand and reimagine them. Same with Northrend in
expand
so
is the correct word there.
Only moving forward.
I love that.
Yeah, and since I'm sure people will have a thought on a follow-up, we'll absolutely make sure that you can, dynamic fly and traverse around those spaces as you would expect, since right now I know in kind of some of those older spaces that's not currently available, but that's part of the fun of revisiting.
I feel like these were pretty obvious answers, but it's nice to hear someone say them.
In terms of how they look, but also, like Ian mentioned, making them kind of come to current day in terms of the timelines, as well as allowing all those cool features.
Imagine flying north from the Plaguelands and finding yourself in the space north of the Plaguelands without a load screen. Crazy.
Our next question from Zella from the Guild Almost Sane. In the deep dive, it was mentioned that some flying mounts would be ineligible for dynamic flight due to animation concerns. Could we get some examples of this?
So I think adding dynamic flight to a mount, so it does require a new custom suite of animations for banking and everything else. For some of our flying mounts, that's more challenging than others. There's some that are just simply more awkward to feel reasonable, think mechanized or very stuff like that. Exactly. And so we're working through that process. Our goal is we would love to
Goblin mechs would be quite doable. Actually,
all of them, any mount that can fly can also dynamic fly. But we have some challenges to work through before we can completely commit to that. So just trying to be reasonable in setting expectations. We're definitely going to come out the gates with hundreds of mounts that can do both, but we'd love to get to 100% eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the goal philosophically with mounts is always that they be, a choice. It's a collection. It's something that I want to choose based on.
I have sped up the audio slightly because we can still understand
right or wrong
it.
Choices when it comes to mounts. So, we really want to get as many of these mounts into players' hands that can dynamically fly, but also, even if we can't quite hit 100%, we feel like it's very awesome to be able to provide a lot of these other cool ones, like we saw Invincible and some other ones in there that were, I'm stoked for those to come out.
It's a big deal.
I feel like the Cloud Serpent should be okay. It's not the same rig as the the Wind Serpent, the one that we got from Zaradek Caverns, whichever one that one is called, the Winding Slither Drake. The Winding Slither Drake is the same rig as the Heart of the Aspects, but it's a very, very similar rig to both worm mounts and to the mop dragon mounts, serpent mounts. So should be okay, I'd have thought. There is dynamic flying magic carpet. Yeah. We said that on the weekly reset. The moose mount. So I was told by someone who is working on the team that is actually currently converting all of these mounts that they are currently working on mounts that do walk flying, and that those will be included. Like the plan is to have the Grove Warden moose mount and like all the other, like the kitten mount, all the other ones that do run flying. Those are being worked on as we speak. Whether or not they'll make it, who can say? But they're definitely being worked on.
Love it. I'm so excited. Our next question is from Moonfire from the guild Karazhan Chess Club. Love that guild name, by the way. Are Delve Gear rewards going to be done in a raid lockout style, daily Mythic Plus style, or something new?
Yeah, so caveat here, this is all subject to change based on player feedback. We're excited to get this into players' hands with, alpha and beta as soon as possible. Currently, what we're thinking is that you'll be able to run delves kind of as much as you would like. We don't want to have lockouts or anything on those. But as I mentioned, there will be these keys that you can kind of collect, both rare and epic keys. An epic key would probably be something that is, given from the Aiding the Accord style quest, like on a weekly cadence, where the rare keys you can earn from doing activities in the outdoor world, and those are a bit more repeatable. And the gear would most likely be coming from those big, locked chests. But you would still be able to earn things like reputation, faction, a lot of other stuff from running a delve, as well as just if you want to kind of like see how high you can push in your progression, you'll be able to do that whenever you feel like it. You won't need keys to get in there. So that's the current plan with delves in terms of the rewards and the itemization of how that will flow. And of course, you'll be able to get gear from the Great Vault from the delves.
Yeah.
And the current plan there is that you'll be able to kind of fill that outdoor row bar from doing any number of those outdoor activities. But the we call it high water mark, right? How high of the eye level you're going to see from the delve or from the outdoor row would be from how challenging of a delve you might have done for the week.
All right, our next question from Akacha.
I know a lot of people are going to be really disappointed with that, and I understand why, because the problem with dark elves, delves, is that the more you learn about how they work, the less you're going to like them. They are exactly like Torghast. They're exactly like Warfronts, where the idea is so great when you know very little about it. And the more, this is why I'm like, I instantly knew this was the feature that has the most chance of going wrong. I'm not against anything that he's just said there, but already delves are less interesting to me because I know more about them. And it's one of those things where, unfortunately, the more you fucking learn about them, the more details you learn about them, the less you are going to like the idea. It's just how it's going to be, guys. You're going to have to accept it because they have to, knuckle. It gives gear rewards. It gives power rewards. So you're going to have to, have some pretty fucking hard and fast rules about how this works. And every hard and fast rule that you learn is going to take away from that, this amazing kind of potential that in your head these things have. As soon as they said delves, I'm like, that's the thing everyone's going to be excited about, but that's the thing that is the most likely to not work in the way everyone wants. It doesn't mean they're not going to be good, just because I've said that. I think, they'll probably be fun.
From Alex Draws a server, do the hero spec trees mean we will get some of the old playstyles back, such as dual-wield survival hunter or two-hand enhancement shaman?
This is a fun question. As we were talking about hero talents early on, one of the ideas I loved was, we were talking about Priest and we were talking about Anduin, and we saw him in his kind of battle gear, and I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to have a Priest in plate armor? Look at Anduin, how cool is that? And then the more we got to talking about that, the more we were like,
no, that's dumb.
That would cause such massive itemization concerns,
okay,
right?
Yeah,
We all
it's
mean
not
about,
a fucking D&D multi-class, you know what I mean?
The problems that could occur just in terms of getting gear for different specializations based on, wait, just because you're a different hero spec, suddenly you need this item that I'm not used to people needing. So we wanted to really avoid any of those kind of problems. We do think it's a fun space to explore, but that's not currently something that we would do with hero talents. If we wanted to make a change like that, we would want to make it much more global, so that was a lot more understandable.
Yeah.
Our next question from Selenis from France.
You can't hero talents that require you to get gear that wouldn't otherwise drop for you and that you wouldn't otherwise be able to equip. It might sound fun in principle, but in reality, it's going to be fucking shit. Because what you're actually going to get in that situation, you're going to have like, say you did have a priest that, you know, your talent tree allowed you to equip plate. That type of priest would not be allowed in raid. Because it would fuck up like the whole gearing balance and stuff like that. People would be like, hey, you ain't coming in with your fucking Anduin priest. No Anduin priests. Like, and you know, depending on the groups that people were putting together, you'd have so many like subclasses and stuff that wouldn't be allowed in and shit. And also it would just be really annoying to play. It's definitely one of those you think you do, but you don't. However, I think there is definitely room for, you know, pushing some classes into being more tanky through hero talents. I don't think they're going to though. I still say make it all cosmetic, but that's not what it is. That's not what they want it to be.
Archaeology make a
I've got to
comeback in War
stop
Within.
projecting my own wants onto it, really.
Archaeology, as it's been known in the past, I think the triangulation minigame, I do not think is likely to return in that form. I think when we look at archaeology, you know, we understand, we hear these questions, understand the desire for and the interest in both the fantasy of uncovering and unearthing aspects of Azeroth's history and the cultures that have lived here for centuries or thousands of years. Also, you know, it's a chance to collect some cool cosmetics and more. So I think we're looking for different...
Okay, yeah, all right, no, yeah, okay. What? Sorry, I'm still thinking about the last question. You're right, guys. The people who are saying this in chat are right. What about if your hero talent tree, just as a bit of added flavor, allowed you to transmog plate items? So you're still wearing cloth, but what if there was something that allowed you to just transmog? Like, so yeah, you're a battle priest, right? So what if one of those talents... Now, the argument is that like all of the other talents are power rewards, so you are making your character less powerful by taking up a node to do that. But why not just have it like an overall umbrella thing about choosing that? You know? I think, here's the thing, I think more people want it to be a cosmetic thing than not. Certainly in my chat. In my chat, if they just turned around and they were like, you know what? Fuck it. All these talents are it's just class skins. All of these talents are just cosmetics now. I think most people in this chat would be very happy about that. I know I would. And you know what? I wouldn't mind it being a grind then. At the moment, they're having it all unlock as part of your talent upgrades. I wouldn't mind 3 trees for my class. Or 2 trees, but yeah, 3 trees for my class, 2 for my spec. That, you know, I could feasibly expect to unlock all of one by the end of season 1. I could fully expect to unlock another one by the end of season 2. I could fully expect to unlock the last one by the end of season 3. I wouldn't mind that for cosmetic stuff. That would be a fun grind. You know? And that's like, that's repeatable content right there, right? So, I don't know, man. I think most people would be, whether you agree with my grind idea or not, I think in this chat, certainly, and I get that we're a certain type of person in this chat, right? We're the best type of person. But I think we'd be more in favor of it being cosmetic, for sure.
Vehicles for, and different outlets for that gameplay, for those rewards. It's not hard to imagine, you know, Delve scratching a little bit of that itch as we're journeying with Bran into some of these vault and locations throughout Khazalgar that we might, in addition to loot and other things, be piecing together some pieces of a larger narrative and relics of the past. And, you know, something that the team doesn't want to let go of, you know, entirely. But the feedback we heard by and large about the triangulation minigame was that it was frankly more tedious than fun. And that was, I think, the majority opinion. I know that there's a minority who loved it, but I think we, in this case, are listening to and are guided by the feedback that we're hearing in aggregate.
There actually will be a, not archaeology, but a fun feature that is going to help scratch that itch that Ian was talking about and really dive into some more like of the lore of the world in one of those future updates for Dragonflight called Azerothian Archives. Which is, you know, an opportunity for us to kind of take another view at how we might implement something like that. So I'm excited for people to see that, and please give us feedback and if that's something that you...
Holy shit! Give us a this is not what he's talking about, but give us a library tab. Give us a tab that collects the books that we collect in game. God, please. I want it so much. Give us a fucking library tab, Please.
Enjoy or like and want to see more of. We're always talking about ways to kind of add depth to the world and add, just the discoverability of some of the story of, these spaces that we're visiting, to have so much history and life to them, and having ways to discover that is always something that we're talking about. How can we inject into the world?
Yeah, more info on that coming soon.
Our next question comes from Harrison B. from the Worm Risk Record server. Going into the War Within, are there measures in place to ensure accuracy with previous storylines?
Yeah, I think yes, always, right? We have a vast team of actual literal lore historians in our story and franchise development group. We have a fellow by the name of Christopher Metzen, who knows a thing or two about just the broad arc of Warcraft history. And yeah, just an amazing team of narrative and quest designers and folks who really live and breathe World of Warcraft lore. It's a
Ian
big complex space
so
to keep
much
track of.
sassier than
Obviously,
people
we
give
will
him fucking
occasionally
credit for.
miss things, cue red shirt guy, but by and large, we do everything in our power to keep it all straight and make sure that we're not forgetting anybody. I think something that Taryn Gregory focuses on in particular these days, which is particularly awesome, I think is really tracking and charting the character arcs of all of our major characters, kind of diagramming that out, understanding who's going to be in the background at a given time, who's going to be in the forefront and central to the story, making sure, again, that we're not forgetting anyone, and that if we reach a juncture in our narrative where it just really makes sense for a certain character to be there, they would not have sat idly by while something happened. We're going to make sure that we pay that off and don't neglect it. So, yeah.
And also that they're speaking with one voice, right? When you have a team as awesome and as epic as the World of Warcraft team, there's often multiple people working on individual characters, and making sure that there's consistency across those characters is something that the team's really been focusing on.
I really want to see Taryn's document on how he tracks all that.
Yeah, they think always sunny whiteboard meme, basically. Pretty close.
All right, we have one last question. It's from WoW from Discord. Any chance on porting the multi-stage casting mechanic from Evoker to other classes? I'd love to see it on KS Bolt.
I'm surprised no one's
plans
asked this
to
question
extend
yet.
that out in the War Within. When we have new kind of iconic mechanics like that for classes, we like to kind of keep them sacred for a little while. And we're not quite out of that window yet, but it's certainly something that, trust me, the team has talked about, and they're excited to explore in different spaces. There's obvious examples like, Chaos Bolt's a fun one, but also Hunters are one that I've heard the feedback a lot of times, like, can I just pull the bow, more and more? It's very iconic in terms of gaming mechanics. So definitely something we're talking about, but not something that we're looking to extend in the War Within.
Thank you so much, guys, for talking about the War
Not
Within
in the
today.
War Within at all.
Thank you all for the amazing
That's
questions.
a real shame.
This is really just the tip of the iceberg, right? We just so exciting
think
to pull back the
Nobble's
curtain,
into WoW
show
again
everyone what we've
now.
been working on, what's coming
Pretty
your way
much.
next year. I know there's many more questions out there. We're going to keep looking to get information out to all of
Oh, yeah, that's great. Nothing earth-shattering. Nice clarification about warbands and stuff. For me, the best thing that came out of that entire interview was realizing that a whole bunch of people thought we were going back in time for midnight. That is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm so glad I know it. I wish I'd known it sooner. I really wish I'd known it sooner. Why did none of you tell me that people thought this? Oh, it was wonderful. Oh, the fun I could have had with that.